In general, our society is one that is oriented towards extroverts. And many of the social structures that we have in place are built upon the assumption that people are okay with prolonged or sometimes even indefinite periods of social interaction. Two biggest examples I can think of are work and school. School is inherently social in nature. Most people's employment settings are social in nature, and they're typically 7, 8 hours long, sometimes even more, almost exclusively around other people and interacting with other people with pretty minimal breaks. This is not very healthy for the introverted among us. We need breaks, we need downtime. We probably aren't up for that much peopling in a single day. And since these types of tasks or settings are difficult and or draining for us, we also typically need to know when are they going to end so I can get back into my recharge mode where I am comfortable. And often there is not a specified time when things will end. So I think of things like large family gatherings or sometimes corporate meetings. It starts at some certain time, but you don't know when it is going to be over. And so it's hard to ration and budget your mental energy for something when you don't know how much longer you're going to have to do it for. But when we honor those needs and give ourselves that time away from other people, give ourselves that alone time, we might be at risk of falling behind. Education requires you to be with other people, requires you to work in groups, often at least suggests that you study within a group. Getting ahead in most careers is often a matter of who you know. It requires networking. It often requires you to form and maintain relationships with coworkers outside of work. And these are just not things that some of us are up for. For some of us, our entire social battery is depleted every day by just doing the bare minimum amount of socialization required, whether that's going to work, whether that's going to stores, attending your appointments. For some of us, we have family at home, and no matter how much we love family, they are humans, and all human interaction drains our social battery to some degree. And so then we come to these crossroads where there's something we feel like we should be doing that requires additional social energy that we may or may not have. And we get forced into a difficult decision tree where we can either do something that feels like it could take resources that we do not currently possess and leave us incredibly drained or possibly even burnt out, or in those moments we can honor our need for solitude, for downtime, for rest, and then we can watch the opportunities that we are chasing go to extroverts, if for no other reason than because their social temperament is simply a better fit for the expectations of the world. So, if you're an introvert and you've internalized some of these worldly expectations, you might notice that you guilt trip yourself, shame yourself, or doubt yourself when you feel an urge to honor your need for solitude, for time away from other people, time to work on your own projects, time to just rest and relax, not in a social engagement setting. And I think this is why so many introverts end up burning themselves out because they feel like they're supposed to or have to fight against their internal nature in order to meet their career goals, professional goals, personal goals, and just stay on track in life. We have to constantly be pushing ourselves out of our comfort zone to do things that feel unnatural to us or are even like uncomfortable or emotionally painful for us in order to meet societal expectations. And I want to make something just really briefly, really clear here, because I've made a few pieces of content on introversion and extroversion lately. I'm not anti-extrovert. There's nothing inherently wrong with being an extroverted person. I myself am actually probably kind of in the middle, which is a territory generally referred to as being an ambivert. And that means a person needs a relatively equal, probably close to 50-50 balance of time with others versus downtime and alone time. I happen to get most of my time with others at work. So outside of work, I'm kind of a recluse since I spend pretty much all day long talking to people face to face. But there's nothing wrong with being an extrovert. So this is not meant to be hating on extroverts. It's just that I think the society is more geared towards them. It's more built for them. And I have a lot of empathy for introverts because I recognize that their nature just often feels like a mismatch for social structures and social expectations. So a lot of empathy for introverts, a lot of validation for introverts. And I led with that very strategically because the next couple things I say, you're probably not going to like quite as much. If you are an introvert, You are at times going to have to challenge your nature in order to achieve your lifestyle goals. You are going to miss out on opportunities if you always honor your desire to withdraw when it is present. And that is especially true if you're an introvert who also experiences comorbid depression, anxiety, or some other mental health condition, because that means you're going to feel a desire to withdraw socially for two different reasons. Sometimes it is going to be that need to recharge your social battery. It is going to be that honoring of your introverted nature. But sometimes it is going to be your pathology. Sometimes it's going to be your depression. It's going to be your anxiety. It's going to be your fill in the blank with mental health condition or symptoms here that causes you to want to withdraw from other people or from social settings. And if you always follow that, it is going to screw up your life. So, what we really need to be able to do is we need to take this category of social withdrawal that covers a lot of different circumstances. And we need to break this down into two subtypes. I'm going to call them isolation and solitude. Isolation is when your social withdrawal is caused by something pathological. It's either a bad habit, it's social anxiety, it's depression, it's anhedonia, and it's there's this thing I probably should be doing, and at least on some level, I want to do it, or I at least really want the outcome of doing it. But I'm feeling a desire to pull away from it because of symptoms I experience or because I'm in an unhelpful lifestyle pattern right now. Solitude is an honoring of your needs. It is an honoring of your nature. It is you recognizing and respecting, I can't just be with people all day. I can't always meet all of the social obligations that I have. I cannot take every single social opportunity that I am given, or my life will be worse. I will burn out. I will get frustrated. I will get exhausted, and I won't be having a good time at the end of the day. So the challenge then becomes trying to honor one's need for solitude while challenging one's drive for isolation. Because if you challenge your need for solitude, you continually try to squeeze water out of a stone, essentially. You're draining yourself further and further and further, and it's going to be harder and harder to continue to put yourself out there and continue to engage socially. Whereas when you honor your need for solitude, you are recharging that social battery and you're actually making it easier to take the next opportunity. When you honor your drive for isolation, it makes it harder to engage socially in the future because you're creating and sustaining a pattern of pathological avoidance or of just automatically saying no to social opportunities and shutting things down. Whereas if you challenge the isolation urges, you are creating habits that I am able to engage socially when I have this energy, and I don't just default to staying at home and not seeing people and not doing things. So when you simultaneously challenge isolation, but honor solitude, it will get easier and easier for you as an introvert to get a level of social engagement that is a good fit for you and does not hold you back from opportunity. Now, obviously, in order to do that, the biggest thing we have to be able to do is we have to tell the difference between these two desires inside of us because they can feel very similar, right? They both pull you in the same direction, which is more time with myself and less time with other people. So on the surface, they're going to look very similar, but there are some questions I'm going to teach you. And I think that if you get in the habit of asking and answering these questions when presented with social opportunity, you will be in the best possible position to honor your need for solitude while challenging your drive for isolation. And the first question I want you to try asking and answering is, do I think I will feel more able or less able to engage socially if I don't go this time? Now, again, this goes back to the difference between the two. If you're honoring a need for solitude, it's going to recharge you. And if that same opportunity came up tomorrow, having honored your need for solitude, having recharged your social battery, the next day, if something like that comes up again, you might say, yeah, you know what? I am up for that today. I could do that today because I kind of bought myself some more energy, because I gave myself what I needed. Now I have a greater capacity to do this, and I feel more able to take on social opportunities in the future. If you are isolating, it's going to create a habit. It's basically going to put you in a rut where every time you isolate, your desire and willingness and ability to engage with other people just keeps going down. So it puts you in a vicious cycle that's tough to get out of. There's not necessarily A 100% foolproof way to answer that question. You kind of have to know yourself a little bit. You have to be very honest with yourself and you have to really be willing to look inward and say, is this something that I need, this withdrawal, or do I just not want to do this? Is this just me avoiding something that I want or need to do? And another question that can help you get to the bottom of that is to ask and answer, where does my desire not to go come from? Does it come from a place of exhaustion? Does it come from a place of burnout? Does it come from a place of like, I have not gotten to do the only thing that I really want to do today, and I just need some time to do that thing, whatever it is, whether that's like playing games or getting a project done or reading a book or just laying on the couch in a quiet room? Or does it come from a desire to just avoid uncomfortable situations? Is it just like, oh, that's not my preference. I think I'd rather do this than this. I could see those people, I could attend that event, but I am more comfortable at home, and so I just kind of want to stay at home. It's really important, again, to know yourself and be honest with yourself and know where these two very similar drives and desires are going to come from. Because sometimes we really do need it, and sometimes it is us just trying to get out of something that's uncomfortable. Third question that can help you differentiate between these two types of withdrawal is to look at, what have I been doing lately? Like, what habit or pattern have I been in lately when I've been confronted with similar decision trees, in the past week or 2 weeks? If you've been pushing yourself to get out there, if you've been pushing yourself to attend things when you're tired, when you're kind of drained, and you feel a desire to withdraw, then that probably is solitude, because you've been challenging yourself, because you've been stretching yourself pretty thin, and you can only do that for so long. As an introvert, if you continue to push yourself in that way, you are going to need a withdrawal period. You are going to need time to recharge. If, however, you have been in a habit of withdrawing, if you really haven't challenged yourself to get out there and go to some of these things or go to some of these places or see some of these people in a while, it's probably more likely that your desire to withdraw comes from simply being in a rut, from being in that bad habit, from having a tendency to isolate pathologically. And if that were honoring a need, again, this goes back to that first question. If you've been not doing this stuff for a while and it was because you were meeting your need to recharge, at some point you should feel able to do it again, right? At some point, if what you're doing is recharging your social battery, at some point it should become recharged, and you should say, you know what, I am going to go out with friends this Friday night. I haven't done that in 3 weeks. I've given myself what I need. I've kind of built that buffer back up. I am ready to get back out there again. I am ready to see people. If it's been like 4 months and you're just saying no to everything over and over and over again, at some point you got to ask yourself, wouldn't this have worked by now if it was going to work? If this was truly me trying to meet my own needs, they should be getting met at some point, and I should, at least on occasion, unless you're just shockingly introverted person with a very socially demanding life. At some point, with some of this withdrawal, you should be like, you know what, today I could. I've given myself what I need, and I have a little bit of extra social battery today that I could use to do this challenging thing that I don't always do. So look at what your habit has been lately to guide you into determining if your desire to withdraw is isolation or is solitude. And the last question I would encourage yourself to ask and answer is, which choice do I think is going to create the biggest consequence or the biggest sense of regret? Because when we isolate, we get immediate reinforcement because we're typically having anxiety or discomfort about an opportunity that we're trying to decide if we want to take or not. Like, I'm stressing about maybe going out with friends tonight because I haven't been out with friends in a while, and I'm definitely experiencing a lot of social anxiety when I'm considering that option. And if I say, you know what, not tonight, no, I'm not going to do it tonight, I'm going to immediately have a sense of relief because the big stressor, I've removed it from my life. I've said, nope, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to worry about it. And the stress is going to immediately go down quite a bit upon making that decision. But what's probably going to happen, and I'm betting you may have experienced this, is that it's gonna creep back up because I'm probably gonna get some of that FOMO, right? I might get lonely. Introverts get lonely too. We get this really unfortunate, like, kind of double whammy thing where it's like we do really want to be around people, but we don't feel able to. So if, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours goes by after you've made the decision not to go, if you're feeling not so great about it, probably suggests that this was a decision made out of a desire to isolate rather than to experience a period of solitude. Now, that's one of those like revisionist history things where it's like it's easy to look back after you've already made the decision and it's too late and say, oh, that might have been a mistake. But after you make enough of those decisions, you should be able to start to tell the difference internally in those two emotional drives. And you should be able to kind of categorize or classify the feeling I'm getting right now, about not wanting to go feels more like those other times when I have said I didn't want to go and then kind of regretted it and wished I had gone. And it feels like the times when I've stayed in and been really glad that I stayed in because I needed it. Now, the opposite is also true. Sometimes we push ourselves too hard. Sometimes we decide, okay, I am going to go. We regret it because we really did not have the emotional capacity for one more social demand on that particular day. So again, with practice, you should be able to start to tell the difference here. And you should also probably have sort of a cache in your mind of times I did push myself and I think it was the wrong decision. I had some red flags, I had some internal warning signs that I am probably not up for this today. And I ignored them and I pushed through them. And I did not have a great time because I ignored my own genuine desires. Try to look for it's going to be different for every person. So I can't be more specific, unfortunately, but try to know your tells, so to speak. Try to know what is different about isolation versus solitude for me. And if you can kind of start to figure out what your habits are, what your patterns are, you can hopefully make the healthiest decision for yourself the majority of the time and work with yourself as an introverted person trying to navigate a society that is designed for extroverts, hopefully without burning yourself out or missing a disproportionate amount of fun or relationships or opportunities that you deserve to have and have every right to enjoy. I hope that this was helpful. We'll see you next time. Take care.